Brilliant. So welcome to the next in the Presca Lunchtime series. These are the webinars. I'm Rob Webben. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Presca. We're the first climate positive sportswear company. And I'm really chuffed to be joined by Phil Young today. Phil from the Mighty, but Phil, tell us your background and everything you've been doing and are doing now. And I'd love to, get into a good conversation.
Thanks, Rob. Delighted to be here. Hello, everybody. Give me a background. How long you got, Rob? To be honest, I'll give you bits that you might be interested in. I guess my background, as far as this conversation is concerned, is like my background in the outdoors world. I guess I was lucky enough to have a grandfather who loved the world and who would take me everywhere. So he would take me skateboarding up to Skate City next to Tower Bridge when I was a kid. He got me into skiing as like a 9 or 10-year-old and shipped me out to Ski Club of Great Britain.
Nice.
Holidays by myself and a load of posh kids, and he didn't have a lot of money, but he pushed me into anything. He threw everything at me. He said that he was very conscious as a white Scottish man, and he was very conscious of the fact that where we were living in North London at the time, that things weren't likely to come easy for me. So just said, let's get this kid experiencing everything he possibly can, so that he might find a path that takes him out of trouble, or gives him a distraction from some of the other paths or routes that he could potentially go down. So cycling, I was a sprinter, so I got into athletics. Football, I'd be sent off on adventure courses to the north of Scotland, and where there was camping and building rafts and going swimming across lochs and all that kind of stuff. So from a very early age, I was an outdoor person. I'm an only child, so I had to occupy my time an awful lot. So I was always out in the woods or on a bike, making jumps out of dirt somewhere. And, so that's where my interests have always lied in being outside. I'm very much a city person, but I can only live in the city knowing that I've got the opportunity to go outdoors. And I have actually probably the tools, and by tools I mean the social tools, to be able to navigate those spaces relatively easily. So whether that's snowboarding in Japan or surfing in LA or something like that, I've been around enough to know what to do and what those social mores are within the relevant sports and the relevant communities, to be able to ingrain myself without too much conflict. I was lucky enough, as we were saying before you pressed the red button, to work on a TV show. It feels like a lifetime ago, but it was around snowboarding, and that took me to Alaska and Japan and South America and Canada and all around the world on a snowboard. So that's been a big part of my life. And since then, I've been working kind of more in the marketing space. I work a lot with brands. So I've done a lot of work with Nike, with Adidas, Patagonia, the North Face, those kind of outdoor brands. And these days, it tends to be around their work in the D&I diversity field. So people are waking up to the fact, I think, that when they look around, there aren't that many people who kind of look like me in the spaces that they occupy. So that's been my work today, and it's fascinating. I almost fell into this work, if you like. I mean, clearly I've always been black, right? But it's interesting that I never really, up until a few years ago, paid much attention to the fact that there was no one else in the space other than myself. And I say other than myself, that's clearly not true, because there are people, you know, black and brown people who are snowboarders, who are cyclists, who are trail runners, who are climbers, who are surfers, who are sailors, but not many of them. And up until a few years ago, I could probably name them all, because there's so few of us, but we were conspicuous by our absence, really. But I always looked at it and thought, well, you know, I'm here, why aren't other people here? You know, it didn't really play on my consciousness too much, because I was having such a great time, right? There was a great quote that a kind of half friend of mine, a guy called Salma Masakela, Hugh Masekela, the jazz artist's son, an American guy who used to do broadcast for X Games, what have you. I was having a conversation with him, and he said that in the outdoor world, people are blinded by a blanket of stoke, and by that meaning that everyone's so happy, high-fiving themselves when they've come down a big mountain bike trail, or, you know, a bluebird powder day, or they've just done a PB on a 10K or something on the trails, that they don't look around and see who's not there enjoying that stoke. They're all really pleased with themselves that they might have picked up some litter and, you know, are wearing a recycled jacket or something, but they're not looking left or right to see who isn't with them. And I wasn't doing that either. I was too blinded by that blanket of stoke.
That's fascinating, Phil. Even though, like you said, you went to Ski Club of Great Britain with a bunch of posh white kids.
There was no black children there at all. You know, I just thought that, okay, well, look, that's just how it is. You know, but at the same time, that's how it is was also applied to when I get stopped by the police, or where the teachers would pick on me, or you know, it's like, okay, well, that's just part of the deal of being a black kid growing up at a certain time in London. You don't have a choice about that. And I think that was the case. That I was skiing with posh white kids by myself. Okay, that's just the deal. That's me just skiing with white kids, and now I'm going to be told something at school, and I'm going to be in detention for doing nothing, or I'm going to be blamed for someone else's problems, and that's it. And someone's going to follow me walking around the shop, and part of the deal. And you just come to terms with that. And it wasn't until actually a few years ago that I went to, I'm sure, maybe yourself or a lot of your friends and people watching this perhaps will be familiar with the UTMB, Ultra Trail Mont Blanc, that happens in Chamonix. And I know Chamonix fairly well. I've spent a lot of time in the winter snowboarding in Chamonix. It's a lovely place, and I've got lots of friends, great friends who still live there actually. But I'd gone there on a job. It was a job for Columbia actually, who were the title sponsors of UTMB at the time. And in my naivety, Rob, and I put my hand up to this, I thought, oh yeah, this is gonna be dominated by East Africans, isn't it? The Kenyans and the Ethiopians who live on that plateau in Ethiopia, 3,000 meters. It's just going to be a breeze for these guys, right? I turned up, and it's a magnificent event. They're playing Vangelis at the Market Square, and everyone's doing this as like they're going out for war or something like that. People are crying, breakdown. I haven't even started, but it's like really emotional. I looked around, a sea of white people. Sea of white people, and how many people enter that race? 3,000 people with the blue ribbon UTMB, 100 miles around Mont Blanc, 3 different countries, whatever. I saw one black person. And I was like, what is going on here? How is this even possible? And I was asking around, why is there no black people? I'm like, I don't know. And I went home and I thought, I'm going to do a little bit of research about this and try and understand what are the barriers stopping people entering this, what was a magnificent event? Nothing. Couldn't find anything. No one had done any work on it at all. In Europe, in the UK. In America, there was a few studies, a couple of theses, a couple of books, but no one really had explored it. And it upset me a little bit. I was like, well, someone really should be looking into this to try and at least understand what some of the problems are. And I kind of looked around a bit and I thought, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the person who can look at it, because I've been enjoying the fruits of powder days and trail runs and mountain bike rides and long distance road cycling and surfing around the world. Like, maybe I should take a step back and check myself and go, well, you might be the person who's in a place to at least explore this. And because of my work with brands, to kind of knock on a few doors and question, their own marketing strategies, and see what we can get out to make the outdoors maybe a more equitable space.
So is that what led to, because you founded Black Trail Runners and opening up the outdoors as well, co-founded that?
So yeah, okay. So I'm a co-founder of Black Trail Runners. I'm not gonna own that, but there's Sabrina Pace Humphreys, Sunny, Martin, MJ, who did the FKT of the Thames Toe Park, Dora. There's half a dozen people who kind of came together over lockdown, I think, when people were just running and like questioning what it meant to be black at a time, and knowing that we had the understanding of what the outdoors could actually bring to us, and we're kind of questioning why other people didn't feel as though they could occupy that space. And then, of course, being empowered, which feels strange, but being empowered by the murder of George Floyd, to kind of stand up and say, hey, look, this isn't good. This isn't right. We need to kind of make a stand, and we need to grow a community of some description to show that we are here, and to make ourselves visible, and to allow other people to have the confidence to occupy the outdoors in a safe way. So yeah, Black Trail Runners is a fantastic thing, and that's grown. It's grown probably more rapidly than we thought it might do, and that comes with challenges, obviously, because we're all volunteers and we've all got day jobs, and it's quite a weight to carry. But then at the same time, with a colleague of mine called Kami, who's a Channel 4 news broadcaster, who lives around the way in Southeast London. He's a cyclist, and we go out cycling together. We work with Patagonia. Alex Weller who was the marketing director for Europe at the time. It's an old skateboard friend of mine, and with Patagonia, we try to get the strength of different brands to create Alto. Just for clarity, that means opening up the outdoors, which is a coalition of different brands that put money into like this central pot, and then we have an agency that works with various communities to enable capacity building. So, for example, Black Trail Runners, we can run. We've all got various skills. How do we sustain that community? How do we grow it? How do we work with children? How do we incorporate that? What's our marketing strategy? So Alto works with various different brands to enable community groups to grow and prosper. That's with finance, but also, like I say, with capacity building expertise from various different people in the commercial world.
Right.
We've done one round of it, and I think we had 8 or 9 people passed through that successfully. Surfers, runners, cyclists, hikers, and we're looking to do the next round of it in year 2. So we're knocking on doors. So we might be knocking on your door to get some kind of support for that.
I mean, so I suppose that was kind of going to be my next question. Will probably have to be my last in a minute, Phil, but just in terms of time. But we're a young brand. We're quite small. Obviously have to be careful with our resources, so we don't have tons of money to throw at these things. But I am very, very aware that we have got quite a homogenous white community. You know, we are quite pale and stale, I guess you'd probably say. You know, we kind of but Lily specifically and me are really passionate about how we become more inclusive and more diverse and more accessible as well. So you know, what advice? We don't go down the route of paying, you know, for expensive ambassadors, because I just don't think that's necessarily authentic. I don't want to buy in people who you know, who will increase our diversity, but I want people to want to join this community. So what would you suggest? How do we and other small brands make genuine steps in the right direction? The whole industry.
I mean, it's good. I mean, asking is probably the best start. You know, I've throughout my life been told what's best for me. Yeah. You know, oh, we'll do this for you. That would be great for you guys. You know, we know best. But it's rare that people have actually gone to the communities or the people that they're trying to serve and actually say, well, what do you want? Yeah. But I think before that, you have to question yourself, why are you doing it? So what are you actually trying to solve here? Is it because, you know, the culture is saying that we need to be more diverse and, you know, it's not looking good on our brand? Or is it because you actually really want to make real change? And if you want to make real change, what kind of change do you actually want to make? And I think if you can start on that level and be honest with yourself about why you're making a change, then you can go the next step of how you can make that change. And obviously, as you said before, resource, you know, and time is obviously, you know, something that you need to factor into that. But then you say, well, okay, we have this amount of resource, we have this amount of time, we can put this person on it. What can we actually achieve? But the worst thing you can do is say, we're going to do this because that sounds good for us. It has to be reaching out to the community or the people that you want to serve and ask them how best you can support them. I think is the best thing. You know, and obviously the easy things are, you know, the representation on, you know, on your comms, for example, you know, helps. But then true representation on your comms, you know, you find if it's a black or a brown person that fronts up people's media, it's the acceptable face. It's kind of almost the white face of being black on it. So you might get a girl of mixed heritage who's lighter skinned with frizzy hair, a gap between her teeth and some freckles. Classic. You see it everywhere. Yeah. You know, you're talking about a model there. That's not the real representation of what it means to be a black woman in London, for example. So, you know, be honest and if you're going to ask, be prepared to not just listen but to hear. You know, and take action on what you're hearing, not on what you'd like to hear. Rather than, oh, we've got this idea and they've said this, but actually if we twist what they've said, it actually marries up with what we want to do anyway.
Yeah, we were right all along.
We're right, hey. You know, and that's the difficult one, isn't it? Is to get yourself out of, well, to put someone else's lens on. Yeah. Because we all think that we know what's best. But if you haven't lived somebody else's life, how can you expect to know how they view the world, what their ideologies are, you know, what success looks like for them? Not everyone wants to get a Strava segment PB or whatever. You know, some people just want to run or cycle for the sheer joy of it. You know, where you know, we get smothered and you know, there's so much pressure on performance in this world. You know, we've got to go faster, we've got to go stronger, we've got to go higher, we've got to go quicker. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to need something that's lighter, we need something that's going to be drier, that's something going to be warmer. Do you? Maybe, you know, it might help that tiny little elite be a few seconds faster, but you know, for the common person, you're probably going to be all right with what you've got. So let's focus maybe on the actual enjoyment and the act of it, rather than how quick, how fast, how hard we can make these things. Those things are good, don't get me wrong. I'm a sucker for it. On the cycling today, I'm probably going to be cancelling that the Strava thing because I didn't get any badges. You know what I mean? I'll do that.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So I don't want anyone to see that nonsense. But we get sucked into that. But not everyone does, and we should accept and celebrate that as well.
Yeah.
There's lots of different narratives, and if we can show all of those narratives, we get a broader picture of what the outdoors actually is.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think the key point that you made there, which is funny because I don't think we haven't done this, but it is almost, well, why? Like, ask ourselves why.
Yeah.
What's our driver? And I think for me, if I reflect on that, I'm intensely driven by kind of equality, and that's probably because I've got 3 elder sisters and I'm the only boy in the family, and it's always been, so that I've grown up in a male dominated world, but seeing my sisters and how that's affected them. So I think probably that's my motivation, and Lily is very, very much a champion of diversity in other ways, but I think we need to do more work on that, and that's fascinating. And I'd love to chat to you a bit more about that. Actually, we don't have time now, Phil, but I know hopefully we'll catch up in the next couple of days. But I mean, that's brilliant. And I think that last point, if you don't mind, is a great segue onto the final 3 questions. So it's not always just about performance, but sometimes it's about community, or it's a big part of its community. So what does community mean to you, Phil?
I mean, that's a great question. I think in the work that I've done recently, like I said, with Black Trail Runners, and I was also one of the founders of a mountain bike group called the Colour Collective, which, I mean, kind of assume what that is, guess what that is. And really, I think the power of community is to allow people to turn up as themselves in a safe environment, and not be ridiculed because what they're wearing or how they're performing isn't spot on. I've gone on cycle rides before, where I live, so many cycle clubs. I'm not a big fan of cycle clubs per se. I mean, I like going out cycle, and I drop into various different ones depending on how I'm feeling. The first time I went to one of them, they're like, oh yeah, we're a race group though, and they're kind of checking you out and all this kind of stuff. You don't want that on your first. I mean, I can cycle, but the fact that that's the important thing for them can turn people off, rather than, hey, great to see you.
Yeah.
You're riding a bike. Bravo. We want people riding bikes. We want people running. Okay, how good are you? Right, we've got a group just for you that's really going to work. And community, I think, allows you to be yourself and run or cycle at your own pace and turn up with, no-name sneakers on, but still feel as though you're part of something special.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've had that experience, actually, turning up to very kind of exclusive clubs and feel like I don't really fit in here.
Yeah. And it's fine if you want to have those, that's great, but it's a different type of community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So another question, this is a big one, I know, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on why climate is important. Why should we care about the climate?
I mean, it's interesting because for a lot of people, why should they? If you live in let's say Poplar, north eastish London, in a concrete jungle, and you haven't really got any parks, and you've never been to the coast, and you've never been to the mountains, so you don't see glacial erosion. Why would you care? Why do you care if there's plastic in sea? You don't care. What you actually probably care about is air pollution.
Yeah.
And that's like a key thing for those people is like, okay, well, how can you change that person's life? So I think the climate, I mean, is sometimes run by privileged people.
Yeah.
To say, oh, look, let's save the the glacier in Chamonix, let's say, where we were, the Le Bosson Glacier, which is hugely retreated over the last few years by hundreds of meters in some areas. Why should you care? Well, you shouldn't care if you live in Poplar, because none of your business. None of your business. Cares for everybody else who wants to play in that area, or whose livelihood to change. Because all we're doing is, we're screwing the world up for ourselves. The world will be okay, but we're screwing up our playgrounds and for other bits of nature. If we need to look after ourselves, but we need to make sure if we want to save the world, we want to save the planet for humans, we have to be relevant to the various different communities. So in Poplar, let's talk about stuff that those people are going to care about, and give them the on-ramp to climate change through air pollution. People who live on the coast, give them the on-ramp to environmentalism through the amount of raw sewage that's pumped into it.
Right. Yeah,
Don't be talking to those guys about otters in Scotland, because they don't care. Who cares? So just
make
be
it relevant.
Make it relevant is what I'm saying. Make it relevant to people.
You can't care about something that you don't. I guess you're not part of. Don't feel part of.
No.
Right. Yeah. That's so true. And
I'd love to save the orangutans in Borneo. Absolutely love to save them. Long way away.
Yeah. Absolutely.
No relevance.
But given you're clearly motivated by these climate change issues, you've seen the change to glacier in Chamonix. You're clearly motivated by social issues as well. I mean, there's a lot of shit in the world, Phil. How do you get up every day and keep on trying to make that change? What is it that keeps you positive and motivated?
Well, I've had so much enjoyment in doing what I do.
Yeah.
Just felt rubbish this morning, tired, but just cycling in, 10 miles cycle into my office in Shoreditch, I just feel great. I'll get up on a Saturday morning feeling awful, do a park run. It's great just to, or if I miss that, I'll go into the local woods, which are around the corner from me, and just smell the earth and see the way the leaves are changing, or the fungus that's growing up, because it's autumn now. I take so much value and pride in the natural world, and me being able to traverse it on whatever instrument I have, whether that's my feet, a surfboard, a snowboard, a skateboard, or a bike. I actually love it. And if I can share that joy and that excitement and that exhilaration with other people, that turns me on. That I'm into that. And if you see a kid that's smiling, or people where you put on an event, or you made a piece of content, that's what I do. I produce and direct. You made content, and people sharing it and put love hearts next to it. Great job done. And if I'm still getting the work and I'm still able to run around the woods, at some stage, or ride my bike, I'll carry on doing it. As long as I can pay the bills, all good.
Amazing. It's all about the great outdoors.
Absolutely. For me, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Phil, thank you so much. I won't hold you up any longer, but that's been brilliant. Really, really great to chat to you. And hopefully we'll connect again in the next few days. But I'll let you go about your busy day. And
thank you very much.
In the meantime, have a great have a great week ahead.
Okay. And you take care.
Cheers, and take care.
Bye-bye.